Welcome back. You're watching To The Point. As recently as February, the Aam Aadmi Party was viewed as the great hope for the regeneration of Indian politics. It represented a credible possibility for transparency, democracy, and policies that actually reflect what the people want. But now is that image irretrievably damaged? And who is the biggest loser, the party or the so-called rebels? My guests are the political editor of The Hindu, Varghese George, the chairman of APCA, Badshah Sen, Aam Aadmi Party member Pankaj Gupta, and speaking on behalf of Prashant Bhushan and Yogendra Yadav, Fahim Khan. Badshah Sen, late last night, the Aam Aadmi Party expelled Yogendra Yadav, Prashant Bhushan, Anand Kumar and Ajit Jha, accusing them of indiscipline and sabotaging the party. Now, was this move justified because they've been publicly opposing Arvind Kejriwal? And earlier they organized a meeting where they virtually challenged the way he runs the party? Or was it high-handed and undemocratic?
Well, the point is, it's really difficult for an outsider to speak on this, but from whatever I see, it was inevitable. Let's put it that way. It was inevitable, it was headed in this direction. The fact remains is that Arvind Kejriwal, as of now, is the leader of the Aam Aadmi Party. These guys are also, Yogendra Yadav and Prashant Bhushan are definitely very honorable senior leaders of, but Aam Aadmi Party as of now is clearly identified with Kejriwal. It may change. In this sense, Kejriwal finds that there are people who are opposing him, and increasingly publicly so. It was no longer kept in private, so he had, in his right, has decided that a disciplinary action should.
And you sound as if you think he's done nothing wrong.
That is on the one side. Yes, I do. I think if you look at it in the pure narrow terms, he has done nothing wrong. Although the Aam Aadmi Party really is not yet a full party, it doesn't have proper rules and regulations. Its decision-making bodies are not yet formed. Okay. Its volunteers are running around. It's not like the Congress Party or the BJP, where if you say something against Narendra Modi, you will invite.
Let me bring you in, Pankaj Gupta. You're getting support in a sense from Badshah Sen, but the opposite view is that the Aam Aadmi Party values and is dedicated to protecting and furthering freedom of expression. These people may have been challenging the leadership or the style in which the leader covers and runs the party, but that they have a right to do. Otherwise, what sort of democracy are you? If you then expel them because you consider that indiscipline and sabotage, then you're undermining the essential freedom of speech you're there to protect.
Karan, if anyone says that the freedom of speech means even destroying the institution in which you are, destroying its image, destroying the party itself, break up the party, then I think it is taking it too far. If you see, there was no such action of expulsion till it was only a voice of dissent. But there have been a lot of activities which has resulted into our believing, as a member of the disciplinary committee itself, that the things had moved beyond what was only a dissension. The things had moved to a position where it was seemingly as if people who are in the party, who are in the senior positions within the party, are doing things which are like breaking it up, making us rather taking the party to the defeat. There were suggestions that if party loses in the elections, it will be good. How can someone expect that in the name of freedom of
That's
expression?
contested territory, Mr. Gupta. That's contested territory. You're alluding to things that Prashant Bhushan is supposed to have said or written. He contests it. Let's not get into contested territory. Varghese George, for many people outside the divide within the Aam Aadmi, people like you and me and voters, Aam Aadmi represented the hope of a new, transparent politics, more importantly, a politics that would regenerate our democracy. How much damage has been done to that image, to that hope and to that dream, A, by the expulsions of last night, but more importantly, by the disputes and the rivalries and the quarrels that we've seen over the last few weeks and months?
I think it has severely damaged Aam Aadmi Party's image, particularly the moral aura that Arvind Kejriwal has claimed personally for himself and for the organization that he promised to build. I think one of the key differentiating factors that Aam Aadmi Party projected vis-a-vis other political parties which exist in India is an inner party democracy, transparent decision making. As an Aam Aadmi spokesperson who's talked before me said that Prashant Bhushan and Yogendra Yadav may have taken to that extreme only after trying to claim some space in decision making for themselves in the recent months. So the decision making in Aam Aadmi Party had become authoritarian, it had become highly concentrated in a few individuals, and Arvind Kejriwal de facto became a supremo like all other political parties in India have, say Mayawati or Mulayam Singh Yadav or Nitish Kumar. So the differentiating component that made Aam Aadmi Party something of a hope for a new politics in India, that component is being severely diminished because of the recent action of the Aam Aadmi Party. But at the same time, there is another component which is its promise of effective governance. That promise is yet to be tested. How Arvind Kejriwal performs as Chief Minister, that is yet to be tested.
Absolutely.
And judged by
that promise, we need to give him more time to prove he can do it. But I want to come back to this dream of regeneration, this hope that you offer of changing Indian politics. Now, I accept that Yogendra Yadav and Prashant Bhushan have revealed Arvind Kejriwal in a light that no one had seen him before. And that may well be the true Kejriwal. I don't have the answer to that. But what you've done in the process is to shatter that dream, and that dream was a cherished promise for many of us. Do you regret the shattering of the Aam Aadmi dream, the disappearance of this great hope for change?
Well, honestly, we all feel heartbroken. Most of the volunteers who've been there with AAP for long, who have given their heart and soul to the movement, they today are at crossroads. This particular fact that Aam Aadmi Party was not following ideology was visible to a lot of people inside for a long time. It was a conscious decision not to expose this till a particular time when Aam Aadmi Party at least wins.
But was there no other way of handling our problem with Arvind Kejriwal rather than take it to a point where this sort of complete cleavage or split became inevitable with incredible damage to the image and the hope?
Karan, what are the right ways according to you? The right ways as probably constituted are that you approach the inner things, inner bodies, National Disciplinary Action Committee or bodies like
And none
this.
of that worked?
None of that worked.
So you were driven to the end that you ended up with? You had no alternative?
See, I was secretary to the National Disciplinary Action Committee. I was privy to most of the things that were happening over there. But things never reached conclusion. They never reached the logical end.
You know, the problem, Badsha said, is that today it's not just political or conceptual differences that divide the Aam Aadmi leadership from that group that we now call the rebels. The worst is that today trading accusations and personal allegations. Prashant Bhushan has accused Ashish Khaitan of paid news. Khaitan in return has accused the Bhushans of improper land acquisition and actually suggested that they have assets beyond their known means. Do you get the feeling that this is now devolving into a very personal slanging match? It's no longer a matter of issues and principles, it's personal rivalry, personal hatred.
Yes, it is. That's exactly what has happened. You see, up until now, until recently, it was very much a party in the making. It was a project. It had not yet gelled. All its institutions hadn't been put in place. The fact remains, it moves from being a movement where you don't have to have tremendous responsibility. You can fling all sorts of allegations and get away with it, as was the Anna movement. Whether they were right or wrong, they did say all sorts of things. So did Kejriwal about certain industrialists. So now you move from there to a government. You actually have a government. You don't have the necessary accompanying discipline, the accompanying rules and regulations to actually allow the government to function in a certain fashion and allow the party to function in a democratic, transparent way.
So Aam Aadmi is falling through two holes.
Yeah, it's falling between the stool of a political party in the making and a movement which has ceased to exist.
But you know, Pankaj Gupta, this is a bigger problem for you and the official Aam Aadmi Party under Kejriwal than it is for rebels. Rebels, no doubt, have their individual reputation to protect, but they don't have a party that loses out. But when a slanging match like this begins to happen, you have a party, that party's reputation gets involved with the slanging match that the Ashish Khaitans and others are involved in, and you lose out. And I put it to you that the personal level animosity that's now being expressed on television with accusations against each other does more damage to the Aam Aadmi under Kejriwal than it does to the breakaway faction under Bhushan and Yadav.
I would not deny it, Karan. You are right. I don't think that slanging match is something which anyone looks forward to. It was based on the issues which the disciplinary committee was working, and the slanging match which we are talking of, it has really disheartened me also. And I personally feel that slanging match between Prashant ji and Ashish Khaitan, they could deal with it internally and bid with each other. That is not something which we look forward to.
I
But on the
applaud
same
you.
note,
I
would
applaud
like
you
to
for
say,
that
because someone
honesty.
said-
It's very rare for politicians to be honest in this way and be also critical of their own colleagues in their own party, and I applaud you for that. Farghis George, I want to ask you a question about Bhushan and Yadav. How are they perceived by the media and how are they perceived by the public? Are they seen as idealists who were forced into a rebellion by a dictatorial Kejriwal? That's how they present themselves. Or are they seen as conspirators and manipulators who were seeking their own advantage even at the cost of their party, which is how their opponents see them?
Well, I think how the public perceives these two individuals are less relevant to the debate than the original question that you raised, which is about who is it harmful, whether it is more harmful to Mr. Kejriwal or the rebels. Because it's Kejriwal who needs and requires a kind of moral authority, and he is the one who made the promise. So even if you assume that these are two people, those are two individuals who may be wrong in all senses that they are being accused of by the Aam Aadmi Party, the fact remains that they were part of the original team that Arvind Kejriwal had built, and they were part of that promise that they made. Now, if Arvind Kejriwal's leadership style involves that he cannot accommodate these two individuals in his scheme of things, that proves either his leadership incapabilities, or it proves that this kind of a politics is just not possible. Because many people said when they started the movement, all these things you can say when you are in opposition and you can make these demands, but when you are in power, it's a different game. So if Arvind Kejriwal is actually conceding to that logic, then this entire idea or promise of politics of a different style now stands completely demolished and undelivered. So therefore, howsoever is Bhushan and Yadav are perceived, I think the idea of Aam Aadmi Party as a new model of politics now I think is no longer valid.
You may well be right that in fact the big losers are the Aam Aadmi Party, its image, the hope it held out, and perhaps Kejriwal himself. But I'm still coming back to this question about Bhushan and Yadav, because even though they don't have a party that will suffer the way the official Aam Aadmi Party is suffering, they are individuals with enormous personal standing in their own individual right. Yogendra Yadav and Prashant Bhushan are two very highly thought of individuals. If the press and the public at large begins to see them as conspirators and manipulators who actually sought personal advantage at the cost of their party, that can only devalue and degrade their standing. And I come back and repeat that question to you. How do you guard against that outcome? Because they may not have a party that will suffer, but they have individual reputations which they cherish and which could suffer.
Well, there are no facts to back any of the allegations that have been raised on them. Truth eventually will come out. Are there any
Many people
facts?
think that the Samaj Samvad that was held,
Swaraj
Samvad was a form of public rebellion disguised under the label of freedom of speech and freedom of expression. You know, in no party would it be tolerated that you hold this sort of public convention in challenge to your own official leadership, and that's what they did. And so to many it sounds a very clever form of conspiracy and manipulation.
Karan, a lot of people were looking at voicing what they were feeling inside the party for a long time.
But in public?
Well, that was...
And in opposition to your leadership rather than behind closed doors, which is where it should happen?
Well, they've been discussing things closed doors for long. It's been probably since May, 8-9 months people have been trying to raise their voice.
Do you remember when Mr. Advani rebelled against the idea of Mr. Modi being made the chairman of the campaign committee by simply refusing to attend in Goa and then resign? He got a lot of flack from it, from people, from the media as well, and he stepped down and stopped. Your two gentlemen have gone a lot further and they've embarrassed their party in public. That's why they are in danger of being seen as manipulators and conspirators.
Well, ultimately, if you are the protectors of the ideology, then you would protect your own party from going in the wrong direction. And that's what these guys have been trying to do for a long time. If nobody listens, what do? That is the last forum. Without communication, can any solution be done?
Let me put that to you. Are they offenders or are they more offended against?
Difficult to tell, Karan, but I'll just put 2 points. They are the logical successor in a certain sense of Ram Manohar Lohia and the Socialist Party. If you remember, the Socialist Party had plenty of ideals. Jayaprakash Narayan was one of the leaders. They had lots of ideology, but they invariably ended up splitting. You know, so it ended up with Socialist Party, Samajwadi Party, Praja Socialist Party. As of now, the Janata Dal.
Lenin called such people splittists.
Yes, splittists. So the Aam Aadmi Party has within its ranks, whether it's a Kejriwal or a Yogendra Yadav or Prashant Bhushan, this splittist tendency. That's one point.
Splittists are never considered loyal people.
Exactly. They cannot be considered loyal people because they themselves don't know what they're going to say next. They're not even loyal to themselves. The point remains is it's very much was a project in construction. It has been deconstructed. Both sides have lost. Kejriwal has his images as a chief minister has been tarnished, and the image of Yogendra Yadav and Prashant Bhushan as purist ideologues have also suffered.
Well, at that point, in fact, you can conclude that both are losers, and the worst loss is, of course, the hope of regeneration of Indian democracy.
Karan, I would like to say something over here.
I'm really out of time. I know you were here to defend them. I gave you a lot of chance because I repeated that question that I put to Verghese to you. But I'm afraid I have to end it there. But I will note that you disagree with what you've just heard from Bacha said, and you have a right to. My thanks to all four of our guests for joining me. And there we end this episode. If you have been, thanks for watching. Goodbye.